Today is part 2 of debunking myths about mindfulness. In the previous video, I explained that you don't need to meditate to practice mindfulness, that you can practice mindfulness regardless of what religion or faith you follow, and also that despite similarities, mindfulness is not the same as yoga or Buddhism. So, if you're interested in other myths about mindfulness and learning more about this topic, make sure you keep watching. Hi, and welcome to Sense of Synergy channel. I'm Carolina, and I'm a hypnopsychotherapist, mindfulness teacher, and I have almost 10 years of working experience in the mental health sector. Over the years, I've guided countless individuals towards better mental health and well-being. And today, I'm bringing those insights and tools with me to this channel. So if you're interested in topics like personal growth and development and well-being, make sure you stick around. Myth number 4, mindfulness techniques are relaxation techniques. So I would say this one is less of a myth, more of a misunderstanding or misconception, because there is a grain of truth to it, and I will explain why in a minute. But in general, I think this statement that mindfulness is a relaxation technique is quite misleading, and it disrupts the picture of what mindfulness is really about. So what am I on about here? Well, if you've ever practiced mindfulness, and especially mindfulness meditation, you would know that after meditating, you're likely to feel more relaxed and just feel calmer. So your thoughts may slow down, your stress level reduces, you feel less tension in your body, and just generally speaking, you feel more at ease in your mind and body. And all these things are relaxing, right? However, the point of mindfulness is not actually to relax you, to help you relax. If you've watched my previous videos, you would know that mindfulness is essentially this ability to be present and conscious and aware of the present moment. And when we go back to this definition, we kind of realize that, right, in the present moment, I can be aware of the pleasant, positive, nice things that I'm experiencing, whether it's thoughts, feelings, a feeling of relaxation after a meditation. But also at the same time, as we know very well, in our day-to-day life, we can also be aware of things that are difficult or not so easy, whether that's our thoughts, our beliefs about ourselves, or feelings, or interactions with other people, or just stressful situations in our life, right? And mindfulness encourages us to be aware of all of them equally, not to pick and choose the nice feelings, the nice thoughts, the nice experiences, because they're all equally important to our life as human beings. So I would encourage you, I guess, to perceive this feeling of relaxation after practicing mindfulness more as a positive side effect of mindfulness rather than its goal or its aim. I just wanted to quickly go back to relaxation techniques though, because this type of techniques, the purpose or the aim of them or the use of them is much more narrow and specific. I don't want to say simple, but it's much more concrete and specified as opposed to mindfulness techniques. So in relaxation techniques, the goal is just that, as it says on the label. They're there to help you relax. They're there to help your mind and body calm down and feel more at ease. Mindfulness, on the other hand, has a much more broader spectrum of uses and benefits and things that you can gain and learn from mindfulness. The reason why I don't want to say that relaxation techniques purpose or goal is simple is because, for instance, if you're someone who is struggling with anxiety or fears or phobias, if you're someone who is carrying a lot of like sense of like hypervigilance or always being on that high alert fight or flight mode, helping yourself and teaching yourself to relax may not be an easy and simple task at all, because it may literally mean reprogramming your nervous system to know how to switch off from that hypervigilant mode. Nevertheless, like I already said, mindfulness has a much broader spectrum of benefits and uses. So, first of all, mindfulness encourages us to self reflect, to develop self awareness about our internal processes. So, it invites us to, not only notice and observe what am I thinking, what am I feeling, naming those things, labeling those things, recognizing them, but also it invites us to have this curious and open approach, non judgmental approach. So if I'm noticing that I'm having this thought after X, Y, and Z happened, it's the case of, oh, I'm wondering why I had this thought, why I thought that way. If I'm having this emotion or feeling come up after X, Y, and Z happened, it's, oh, I wonder why I felt this way instead of feeling in a different way. So it's this curiosity. And also at the same time, mindfulness teaches us that even though our feelings and thoughts are a part of us, they're not us and they don't define us. And that even though we may be aware of them, we don't have to act on them. So these are only some of the benefits for our well-being and emotional kind of mental health that mindfulness brings. Myth number 5. Mindfulness is about controlling your thoughts and feelings. Now, I honestly believe that there's still so many people out there who actually believe this about mindfulness and meditation. That it's about becoming this master of your inner world, inner experiences, and basically training your mind to just switch off thinking, switch off feeling whenever you wish to do so. That it's this, this idea of becoming stoic and unmoved by anything. So regardless of what happens around you or, to you, you're going to be unaffected by it emotionally. And I'm not a big fan of even using the term controlling thoughts and feelings, because it automatically implies that you need to be almost like above your thoughts and feelings in order to control them. So it suggests that there's some effort, like you need to like tame your thoughts and feelings like some wild horses or whatever. And that there's just this kind of intensity about this. But mindfulness is actually the complete opposite of this. Mindfulness is about this gentle, sensitive focus, gentle effort. There's no overworking here. There's no like doing anything intensely, strongly, or fast. It's really just about this soft, gentle use of attention. Mindfulness helps us to shape a much more healthy relationship with our emotions and thoughts. So that even if we're talking about thoughts or emotions that are unpleasant or difficult to be with, it helps us to see that they're all just part of being a human being, and that no matter how much you try, you can't simply switch off your thinking or switch off your feeling. And actually, when we do that or try and do that, it easily becomes emotional suppression, which is not healthy for us at all, because it simply means we're distracting, we're avoiding feeling or thinking, we're avoiding ourselves in a way. Because all these, like I said, like all these things are part of us, but they're not us. And what that means is, and again, what mindfulness teaches us is that we can be aware of those things, internal processes, internal experiences, but we can choose what we do about them. And sometimes that means not doing anything. Sometimes that means taking an action that is more thought through rather than reactive. But I do think that one of the reasons why some people strive to become this stoic, unmoved, emotionally unaffected person is that when they feel so much or they feel so intensely that it becomes unbearable. Or when a thought comes up, and we're really listening to that voice in our head, it becomes like this, wow, like that's so uncomfortable. I need to like escape from this. I need to distract myself. I need to do something else. But again, mindfulness teaches us balance between those things, in those things. And paradoxically, when you're able to sit with that thought, with that belief, with that emotion, with that body sensation that's coming up, even if it is uncomfortable and difficult to be with, in that moment you are giving yourself control. No, not over the feeling, the emotion, because you're just letting it be. So you're not controlling it. The control you have is over what happens next. So just because you're having this thought doesn't mean it has to stop you from doing something in your life. Or just because you're having this feeling doesn't mean you have to go and do something impulsive, right? Say that you're feeling frustrated, irritated, that you've got a lot going on, you're really busy, so many things to do, so many things to remember, plan for, and your stress levels are just sky high. And with all this bubbling up inside of you, you find yourself storming into a room and making a snarky or sarcastic comment to your husband or wife. I see that you didn't even bother to wash the dishes again, did you? Now, if you were to apply mindfulness here, it wouldn't be about controlling your thoughts or emotions. It would be more about controlling the behaviors or the reactions, right? So you could notice in the moment that your levels of frustration or stress are high and you're feeling it physically in your body. Another thing you could notice in that moment could be that your frustration isn't actually to do with your husband or wife at all. It's to do with all these other things that have been on your mind. And you could even pause and take a breath or do something else to regulate yourself before you make any sort of reaction or response or do anything at all. And let's say that response could be going to that person, your husband or wife, and saying, look, I'm really under a lot of stress right now. I'm barely coping with what I've got on my plate. I would really appreciate if you would remember to do the dishes tomorrow. Now, this can only happen if you're aware in the moment of what you're feeling and you can decide how you want to act. Myth number 6, mindfulness is great for mental health. Now, this is a very broad statement, and the topic itself is very big and broad as well. So I'm going to try my best to cover the main, most important points to consider. So overall, mindfulness is a very, very safe practice. But there are some circumstances where more precaution or consideration needs to be taken. One of them is having a diagnosed epilepsy or seizure disorder. And that's to do with the fact that when we're meditating, our brain waves change, they slow down, which some believe may contribute to evoking or triggering the seizures to happen. On the flip side, there are also studies out there that show that mindfulness can reduce the frequency of seizures in some people with epilepsy, and that it can lessen the impact the condition has on someone's health and well-being and their mental health as well. Another one to do with physical health would be a diagnosis of a respiratory health condition like severe asthma or COPD. And again, that's more to do with meditation more than anything else. Because obviously, when you're meditating, you often use your breath quite a lot. You focus on your breath, you do some breathing exercises throughout the meditation. So that can be quite difficult for people with those types of conditions. But still, and this applies also to what I said about epilepsy, mindfulness is not just about meditation, right? So people with epilepsy or respiratory health conditions can still apply mindfulness in so many different ways in their day-to-day life. In terms of mental health, there are another two situations or circumstances where we may need to consider whether practicing mindfulness would be beneficial or helpful for that person. One of them being having psychosis, active psychosis, acute state of psychosis, which may mean experiencing symptoms like delusions or hallucinations. Now, this is because, again, when you think about what mindfulness helps us to do or encourages us to do is looking within, so paying attention within. So if someone's already experiencing quite stressful things like seeing things or hearing things that they may know are not real but can be quite upsetting and distressing, obviously turning that attention inwards can create an overwhelm reaction. Having said that, though, I also believe that mindfulness has a massive potential to be incredibly beneficial to individuals with psychosis. And that's because when we're practicing mindfulness, what we're really doing is we are training our mind, training our attention, our awareness, and seeing those things as tools, right? So our attention is a tool that we can navigate, that we can choose what we put our attention to, right? We can choose how our attention and awareness shifts from thing A to thing B, right? And that's what often we do in meditation when we shift from paying attention to our breath to paying attention to our body or other things like that, right? So really, when we look at what the process is, it can be amended and adapted to someone who is struggling with symptoms like delusions and hallucinations, because it can teach them and equip them with this knowledge and the skills to navigate their attention. So if they're experiencing those distressing symptoms and they have the insight to notice when they're experiencing them, it can really help them to reduce the impact of those symptoms on the day-to-day life. Another example that is related to mental health in terms of situations where we may need to apply a bit more caution or consider the use of mindfulness is when you've experienced a recent traumatic event in your life. And again, this is because mindfulness, especially mindfulness meditation, when we're practicing meditation, we're becoming really aware of our internal experiences, right? And that may lead to all of those unprocessed and likely very intense emotions, feelings, thoughts, body sensations resurfacing after the traumatic event, which can obviously lead to the person feeling quite overwhelmed or dysregulated. Now, a counter argument to this is that one of the biggest, most important foundations of working with trauma and healing from trauma of any kind is teaching ourselves how to feel safe in our minds and bodies again after traumatic events happened. And mindfulness does just that. As you can see, there's probably no black and white answers here. It's all about the grey areas in this topic, and I do really think that we can't say that there is one specific group of people that should not practice mindfulness because it's unsafe for them under all circumstances. I think there's so many different factors to consider here, and it's very, very individual. But there's two main factors that I consider when working with people and teaching mindfulness. The first one is flexibility, because mindfulness is very flexible, it's very adaptable as a practice. And really, it's a range of practices, it's a range of skills that you can learn as a human being, as a person. It's not just one single thing. And this is where I think it's, again, so important to remind yourself that mindfulness is not just meditation. Because even if there are health related reasons for why meditation and paying attention to your breath, or changing the pace of your breath, or tuning into your emotions that deeply, if there are reasons why these things may not be safe for you or maybe a bit risky in this current moment, you will still find all the types of mindfulness practices or approaches or principles that you can really benefit from in your day-to-day life. And like I keep saying, mindfulness is more about how we relate to ourselves, to other people, to the world, to our experiences, more than about sitting and paying attention to our breath and meditating. Meditation is only one of the tools that can help us to connect to ourselves and to the world around us. The second thing is working with a qualified and trained mindfulness teacher or coach, because they will understand the potential risks related to your health conditions in relationship to mindfulness and mindfulness practices. And they will also adapt the teaching of mindfulness to your needs and to your abilities. And also have a support plan. Whatever your condition is, there are things you can put in place together with your teacher or coach to ensure that your journey of learning mindfulness is as safe as possible. So for instance, if you've got asthma, make sure you bring your inhaler. Maybe your teacher can gradually increase, the meditations where you focus awareness on your breathing. So expanding that gradually and very slowly at your pace. Or maybe to begin with, maybe they won't even do any meditations around breathing, because there are so many other types of meditations of mindfulness out there. If it's more mental health aspects that you're worried about, like for example starting to feel overwhelmed or emotionally triggered when meditating or practicing mindfulness, you and your mindfulness teacher should have a conversation about how you're going to manage these types of situations. So how are you going to prepare, what you're going to do. So how can your mindfulness teacher support you regulate in those situations, and also how can you support yourself in those moments as well. Even if you do have any of those contraindications around health, physical health or mental health, there are so many things that can be put into place to ensure that your journey of learning mindfulness can be as safe and as productive and as helpful to you as it can possibly be. But there's a lot of individual differences here. So it's a lot about, what can you do? What will be too much for you? So all of those things your teacher and coach will be able to explore with you when you start working together. If you're interested in topics like personal growth and mental health and well-being, I've got an offer that may be of interest to you, and it's completely free. You can get access to my free webinar, You Are How You Breathe, which talks everything about breathing techniques and breath work. In the webinar, you will learn about the powerful connection between stress and breathing. You will learn about very common but unhealthy types of breathing. And also you will learn actionable techniques and skills to improve your breathing and reduce your stress in day-to-day life. All you need to do to sign up to this webinar is go to my website, www.senseofsynergy.com. Leave your email address there and you will get an email sent with a link to the webinar. That completes this video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and maybe even share this video or send it to someone in your life who you think could benefit from learning about mindfulness. Thanks for watching again. I'll see you later. Bye.